The title is The Absolute Disaster of Ashes of Creation. Staff are leaking. Uh-oh. Here we go.
They couldn't have picked a better name for the thing because now Ashes is all that we are left with.
Yep.
Today we're talking about the biggest MMO in Kickstarter history and its implosion. The founder has resigned in a very eyebrow-raising way. Staff have been fired, they have got no pay, and the game has been pulled from Steam, where it only launched 2 months ago.
Complete
and as fans are raging, rightly, at the collapse of a game 8 years in the making that never even reached beta, insiders are telling of a mysterious new owner who killed the company rather than keep spending. Ashes of Creation was kickstarted in 2017. It was a hyper-ambitious MMO from a brand new team, Intrepid Studios, that wanted 750,000 USD and ended up raising 3.2 million, making it the most funded MMO on the platform at the time. As we all know, Kickstarter MMOs have really by now got
It was the one that it was going to be different. No. You guys don't understand. No, this one's going to be different. No, I know every single other one was a scam and it failed. Except for this one. No, you don't understand. This one's going to be crazy good.
Hell of a track record. Now, it was also that Stephen Sharif, the game's founder and creative director, could build the dynamic, faction-driven MMO that he had always dreamt of.
Yep.
And throughout development, his public position was clear. And this is what's getting them into hot water. The game was self-funded. There were no investors. There would be no board to answer to.
Funded to completion.
That's going to make a message we'll talk about soon seem a little bit funny. Now, what followed was 8 years of, I think, what we can only call messiness. A battle royale was launched in 2018, ostensibly to test mechanics, and then it was shut down by 2020.
Yeah, it was really
bad.
bad.
The alpha continued from 2021 onward, with premium backers getting hands-on access. And when I say premium backers, in some cases, I really do mean the premium, though I don't think the Ashes people have quite outdone the whales of Star Citizen.
No.
But then, in December 2025, Ashes
Star Citizen's going to be the one that's different, guys. You don't understand. Okay, yeah, I know all the other ones have failed, and now Ashes of Creation has failed. But what you have to understand is that Star Citizen is going to be different.
Creation was released on Steam in early access. Was still an alpha, and it was in a state that many users found unacceptable for a paid product. Reviews were mixed, and signs that this release hadn't gone well internally were already beginning to show. And it's the sort of thing where there are a lot of cool bones in the game, and once people would get to endgame, be able to do, say, the stuff with the boats. And I guess where a lot of the Arc Age inspirations came from, that's another MMO with a pretty disastrous history, sadly. There was a lot of cool stuff. However, leveling up was essentially just a humongous mob grind. The quest content wasn't really there, just a whole bunch of issues.
The reason why I stopped playing is that it was just like I don't want to play an MMO where I can't get anything done. Like, if I'm sitting there trying to, like, get a quest done, and there's, like, 10 other people that are just taking my mobs, well, I can't really play the game. Like, I can't even play the game. Like, I don't want to just sit there for, like, 2 hours just to do something like that. It just sucks. So I figured, like, okay, I'll come back later on and play it then. Maybe it'll be better. Dreadmist sounds like classic. Yeah, but, like, I wouldn't go back and do that again, right? This is awful. I know.
For a lot of people, while there were a lot of systems there, it seemed perplexing that it was so light in content for such a long development cycle. Now, I talked about signs not really being good. Well, 9 people were laid off from a team of 250 in late January. Okay, that's
not so bad.
Sucks.
Really,
sucks for those people, but it's only 9 out of 250. Now, when this happened, Sharif posted, quote, "Development on Ashes is continuing forward." However,
that was in January. That was January 22nd this year. So, like, 2 weeks ago.
However, by the 29th of January, just
literally 1 week later,
2 days later, and all as players continued to worry, Intrepid released a statement trying to soothe people's concerns. "We remain deeply committed to making Ashes of Creation a world worthy of your time, your stories, and your belief." That's a nice statement, but within a few days, well, it appeared that the entire development team would be laid off.
Of course, right? What a big surprise.
This is where things get honestly insane. I'll be real, if you don't want to code or you don't like games, skip this.
Yep.
But if you're still here, then that's good, because it means today's
Corporate speak? Yeah, I think basically it is corporate speak. I think what they're doing is that they just said that to keep people inside, and then as soon as basically the wheels totally fell off, that's whenever everybody roached out.
Boot.dev was built specifically for how us gamers actually learn. And that's
Join Boot Dev and become a game developer. That way you can get laid off too.
It's actually more relevant than ever.
Wow.
Now, Boot teaches back-end
You can be in my
development.
next
That's
video.
The kind of thing that lands you 100K plus jobs, and they do it through a proper 12-month program
about
structured
that?
like an RPG. Leaderboards, achievements, a Discord.
Is Belluor just advertising this company so he can have content in the future?
That actually helps.
Is that what's
Over
going on here?
750,000
I'm just
students who've
confused.
completed 33.7 million lessons, which is wild. And that's covering
Yeah, it's
tech
like planting the
Python,
seeds,
TypeScript, and Go.
harvest
All
the
from
crop later
fundamentals
on.
Up. There's projects, there's modules, and the likes
genius,
of
yeah.
actually using Git properly. It is fantastic. Now, my perspective in this is I did a BEng computer science, focused more on C++ and C#, kind of game engine-y stuff. Completely different world to web dev, which is why I also need Boot. And their teaching approach, I can say, is incalculably better than the way it was done at university.
Well, that's
But
pretty
here's
good.
the thing. The AI tools are everywhere now, your cursors, your Claude codes, but they're only as good as the person who's using them. Boot teaches you the fundamentals that separate
We
series
saw that whenever they vibe coded that ice app, and then they just got everybody's information out of it in like 5 minutes.
engineers from vibe coders who just ship security nightmares. Really, they do.
Hey!
And their new training grounds feature even generates personalized
that?
problems based on what has challenged you when you've been using Boot, all with
It was
spaced
legendary, it
repetition
was.
baked in. It's seriously gigabrain. And you can get 25% off your first purchase at boot.dev/Bellular News.
The T
You'll
app
save the
also?
most
Yep.
using the annual sub. And of course, if you're not happy, they'll refund you on the spot. As first reported by PC Games N, the first sign came from the Director of Communications, Margaret Crone, who took to LinkedIn to announce that she was
She was the one that had her DMs linked by Maldavius.
longer at Intrepid.
Yep.
Now, she implied she wasn't the only one. She cited layoffs, so multiple. But then, Stephen
while ago.
Sharif followed with a statement on the Ashes of Creation Discord. However, this was a statement personally made by him, not a professional statement. In it, he alleged that he had lost control of the company.
Yeah.
Quote, "The board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out." He says that he quit and that most of the senior leadership team followed him in quitting. In
Yeah.
his words, everyone acted in good faith, but the board were issuing warn notices and proceeding with a mass layoff. LinkedIn posts from staff would follow, confirming what everybody feared. Basically, yeah, everyone was gone and they had
It's actually over. Everything is over. It's gone. Everything that you hope for is dead. The worst possible scenario has come true. The world is ending, and you're living it right now.
been told that they were done.
That's right.
Now,
That's how it
Stephen
is.
Sharif's post places him as the defender of this game, of the developers and of the players against a faceless board. But
A board. Oh, wow.
there's a lot to unpack with that because how true is it? So there are things worth interrogating here. First, Intrepid's Warren report, which basically is stuff you file with the authorities whenever there's going to be big job losses, that was filed January 31st, and it was listed as a permanent closure affecting 123 remaining staff.
Yep.
However, there are other corporate filings, and they tell a rather more mundane story. So let me walk you through them. The most recent company documents are from December 30th, 2025. They're a delay in the annual report until 2027. And we see no board, no owners being listed here. Just Stephen Sharif as the sole director and John Moore as the CFO.
Uh-huh.
Which is perfectly normal for
Sure.
this type of filing. But some in the community see this a little differently, shall we say. Essentially reading it as evidence that Sharif is lying. And this is building on distrust.
The board comprised of me and my husband.
Present since the game's announcement. Number one, for, being a crowdfunded MMO.
I mean, let's be honest. $30 million cannot make an MMO. It never could. This was like the idea that it was funded to completion with $30 million. Like, I mean, with $300 million, you probably couldn't fund an MMO at that scale. It was unrealistic.
But in this case, a bit more specifically, when he was linked to multi-level marketing schemes.
Right.
Yes,
yeah, this is the other
MLMs, and ones that seem to reappear in Ashes of Creation's Kickstarter referral structure. Now, a purportedly leaked email to staff fills in a few gaps in this story. The company's finances are seemingly so bad that they can't pay staff for this month. This is something that's later been corroborated by Crone, who I mentioned earlier, who confirmed that the entire company had been let go. Now, the email suggests that plans aren't fully decided, but some of the 250 developers could stay to work on the game. Now, in light of that, the Steam launch does take on a more desperate tone, right? They needed money.
I think that's the reason why they went to Steam too, because it doesn't make sense to me why you would go to Steam if you knew that you were releasing an incomplete product that people would give negative reviews to. It seems like it was like such an obvious bad decision. How the fuck did we not see this coming? Well, we hoped that it would be good, and you know, like that's it, and you know, it didn't work out. That's just the way it is, right? I mean, like, on to the next one. I mean, there's a lot of games. Like, I mean, Blizzard cancels games. It's not like a video game being canceled is, like, impossible to imagine. Sure.
Game on Steam, acquire money.
Yeah.
Just that it maybe didn't go that well.
We hoped it was
Here's
good.
the thing. There are a lot of missing pieces. What about that board? You see, right now, there's a board that doesn't actually appear in company documents. There's layoffs that both have and have not happened, and a pivot that seems to have came days after developers promised that they could turn things around. When you piece together all the things that have came out and that various people have said thus far in the story, it doesn't add up. And that's where we're lucky. Because insiders have spoken out. Reports from both YouTuber Kira and MMORPG.com have corroborated at least some of what seems to have happened behind the scenes. Kira doesn't claim to have all the facts, but says that his sources have been accurate before, and the allegations made here are very significant.
Oh, wow.
So, in his version of events, an unnamed private equity group took over ownership.
An unnamed private equity board, what?
Intrepid Studios on Ashes of Creation. Then, on the 29th of January, Kira received a message confirming this. Sharif's resignation happened as he described, and most of the senior leadership followed him out the door. And the reason, well, plans to move production of the game offshore and to outsource development, keeping under 100 of their 250 staff. This private equity group are the board that Sharif blamed, and after these resignations, their plans changed within the day. Because
I mean, I think that really this to me doesn't make a lot of sense, because like, how did you not know this was going to happen? How did you not have any idea this was going to happen? And also, like, this is the same thing I've said with FaZe, is that whenever FaZe sold a lot of their company, like, I didn't feel bad. Like, they were like, oh, it's the board. Like, they're making us do this. Like, you sold it. Like, they're not making you do this. They paid you to do this. You got the money and the investment to do this. It's a hostile takeover. It's not a hostile takeover. It wasn't a public company.
without leadership, the owners simply decided to just file for mass layoffs.
Yeah.
And there's no money for severance, PTO that people are owed, overtime, any of that. And obviously there's not going to be money for that when the salaries aren't being paid. So that's quite the story. Now, MMORPG.com sources do corroborate much of this. The numbers aren't exactly the same. They frame it as a skeleton crew originally staying to work in the game before basically that plan was abandoned in favor of a full layoff. They also confirmed that staff aren't being paid whatsoever. Now, other elements do remain unexplained, such as the identity of this board, how the company ended up under different ownership than Sharif, and a few other things. So it's all quite weird. Now, none of this is contradicted by publicly available information, at least of the time of this video's recording. Here's the thing. It is not unusual for a private equity firm to come in, buy something, and then immediately kill it. But if the new owners can offload...
I think there's a selection bias with this, because a lot of companies get private equity and they don't do this. And I feel like this is something that's becoming less common. Like, yeah, it does happen, but it's a lot less common now than it used to be. because you have more people that are inside of these different equity firms that understand the product better, so they don't apply antiquated business strategies. So like, for example, if you had somebody, you know, maybe 10 years ago that was investing in like a video game, they might understand video games in the same way that a guy now does.
Debt onto a failing
Common
entity
gaming for
and
asset
then just
scrapping?
hang on to the assets,
Yeah,
that can
I don't
actually
think that's
work
what would
better
happen.
for them than trying to make a
No one
game
with
with
ashes?
no
Yeah.
creative leads. Now, to be clear, that's what we call a theory. And it's a sort of thing that does happen with private equity firms. But I do think it's a theory that carries some weight given everything else that we've been seeing. Online, we're seeing community members combing through every public filing that they can find. I mean, come on, it's the gaming community. If there is, I don't know, a photo of Shia LaBeouf having a mental breakdown that makes its way onto 4chan,
They will not
people
divide
find out
us.
where Shia planted the flag by looking at the cloud patterns. That's a real story, by the way. But it is...
Well, not only is it a real story, but why is it? The reason why is that people don't like being gaslighted and lied to. Fundamentally, I mean, obviously they don't. So they don't like having somebody piss on them and tell them it's raining. That's the reason why. So the more that you try to mislead people, the more people will try to figure out the truth.
To say the internet is damn good at finding things. And by things, I mean UCC liens, tax records, corporate documents, anything that might explain what the hell happened. And what they've found so far paints a picture of a company deeply in trouble. An $850,000 case for unpaid cloud services from December 2025.
Surely that's going to happen.
Insurance debts from June 2025. To those who already doubted whether Ashes of Creation was legitimate, this just ended up being more evidence that the whole thing was a precarious house of cards. Now obviously there's the question of, is it a scam? I'm going to talk about that a bit later. But as of right now, there is no hard evidence of wrongdoing. But I said hard there. There's no hard evidence. There certainly seems to be evidence of poor financial management.
Yeah.
But on there being no hard evidence of wrongdoing, well, there's one man who wants to change that. And his name is Stephen Sharif. I have made a public statement. My next action will be a public filing. I hope that at that point, people have a better understanding of what happened.
Yeah.
That's a follow-up message from Stephen Sharif that seems to confirm that he wants to take this to court. Now, he's advised players to be patient, to avoid...
Dude, I don't think this is going to happen. I really don't. I mean, it's just like, I mean, is there I mean, there's something about this that's like very sketchy and suspicious to me. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but something's wrong. Something is wrong.
Jumping to conclusions and to wait for legal filings to tell the story. Obviously, though, people don't really want to wait. The Steam reviews for the game have tanked. Of course, that's a little bit immaterial because the game is now being pulled from sale. And those who bought it only 2 months ago are pushing Valve for refunds. Some people are getting those refunds, but that actually raises a thornier question for Kickstarter backers. Intrepid committed to a lofty promise. And it's a promise that goes far beyond Kickstarter's platform obligations. Quote, and finally, in the case that Ashes of Creation does not launch, we promise to refund all backers in full.
That is not going to happen. I am sorry. There is no chance that happens. It's over.
So,
and people think that it's a Steam launch. Like, I don't really... I mean, how is it a Steam launch if it gets launched into early access? Because if that's the case, then why would they even... So here's the logic that I don't understand with that argument. The game was already launched as being playable previous to the Steam release. So why is it that the Steam launch is seen as, you know, some kind of unique thing where it was already effectively launched to the public that you could pay money to play the game even before that? On a Kickstarter, never holding a court regardless? Yeah, it's like, I didn't even see, like, even inside of that argument, I don't think it works.
Does Steam count? Ashes of Creation is still an alpha. It never made it to beta, yet
Yeah.
it is on Steam, and it does bring up another fun little game. You see, the last crowdfunded MMO to collapse like this was Chronicles of Illyria. Now, it saw backers take it to court and walk away with nothing. Now, some people
I feel like Kira TV probably made more videos about Chronicles of Illyria and made more money off of talking about Chronicles of Illyria than the people who did the Kickstarter for the game.
speculated here that the Steam launch was a
probably not even
last-ditch
close, by
effort
the
to
way.
avoid legal trouble. But considering the time since that promise, the financial collapse that we're seeing now, and Sharif no longer being involved with the company, who
Yeah.
the hell would be paying for those refunds? Company
Yeah.
sure as hell can't do it. Like, maybe if
They
if
can't.
that refund
Nobody's getting a refund. Nobody's getting their money back. It's not going to happen.
promise was like
There's
a
no
legally
way.
enforceable thing, would that mean that the company now owned by the private equity firm would owe money to those people? I mean, I've seen some people basically say, is this just them trying to dump that obligation onto Valve? Obviously, in a case like that, it would not be correct for Valve to be issuing those refunds. It's not really their bag. All that Valve, I think, should really have to do is just stand by their own refund policy. Obviously, though, that's not going to get players their money back. That sucks. This whole thing sucks. And certainly, in a void of information, anger, and conspiracy,
I don't think that Steven made any money off of Ashes of Creation. I don't think Steven's walking away with this like a billionaire or with a higher net worth like than if he had just invested this money into the stock market. I don't think he made money off of this. I think he lost a tremendous amount of money. So I don't necessarily think that Steven is like this evil mastermind that's making out with the bag. But at the same time, I can see why people are frustrated and mad, for sure. He bought a $5.5 million house during development, so I don't know. Yeah, but that doesn't, like, how much money did he have? It's very simple. Did the money that he invested into Ashes of Creation lead to him making, like, is he richer or poorer, like, with doing this entire thing or not? What I'm saying is that I don't think this is just a very simple scam. I don't think so. And the reason why is I don't think he made any money. I don't. Like, I'm not seeing a universe where is this you coping? I don't see logistically how that's possible. Really, like, it's business debt rather than personal debt? It is, but he still used his personal finances. I don't know. I don't see. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I don't see that happening.
are rife. And I don't say that to, tut-tut at people.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. People deserve answers. Right now, the community's just trying to find any shred of information they can get. As things stand, Ashes of Creation social channels, the Discord, Reddit, etc. are ablaze with rage. A huge number of people feel scammed, they feel hurt, and they don't understand how this could have changed so quickly. To them, the fact they didn't know this was coming is really all the evidence that they need. It's evidence that the long-term critics were right, that this all was in fact a scam, that they were wrong to believe in a game that was a dream for many. What I'd say there is, scam is one of those words that's lost a lot of its meaning. Now those,
people, like, everybody says everything's a scam whenever they don't get what they want. Sometimes things are just a fuck up. They're a fuck up. Like, there is a world where sometimes people just fuck up. Or they think something and they have this great idea and it just doesn't happen.
MLM things I mentioned earlier.
But the MLM doesn't look good. It does not.
Going on there. But generally speaking,
it does
a
not
scam
at all.
is, me telling you, hey, I'll sell you this iPhone. And then, I give you something that looks like an iPhone, but it's actually a knockoff. Like, that is an overt scam. This does, however, feel scammy. You may have heard the phrase, don't attribute to malice what can be, easily explained by stupidity. Yeah. When I look at some of...
And I think that makes sense because I don't think Steven made money. Like, if Steven made a lot of money off of this project, I would agree that it probably is a scam. But the outcome of it, I'm not really seeing that.
Those claims, like the cloud services bill, it seems that there was quite a degree of financial mismanagement here. Even thinking about the scale of this game's development team, it seems kind of huge for what I thought was supposed to be a very much sandbox-driven MMO that wouldn't rely and wouldn't really need a big content team. And to be honest with you, the Ashes of Creation that existed in my mind was way smaller than the one that they tried to release. That might sound a little strange, but you may have heard of the phrase scope creep.
Yeah.
I did not think the game would be trying to bite off just so much. So whenever I watched, say, the Skill Up review of the early access release, I was kind of perplexed. So it at least appears to me that they tried to do something way too big, something well beyond their means. And perhaps it could be the case that they thought being able to get multiple thousands from some people for, the backer pledges, maybe they thought, we can just run this just like Star Citizen. We can just continually sell people ships and somehow have...
Well, you've got to keep in mind, Star Citizen made way more money, too. And they're coming out with a secondary product, that Squadron game, and that's also going to sell. So it's very different.
This big, money number that will go up. For me...
Just because it's incompetence and miscommunication doesn't lessen the damage it's caused. The only thing that matters is whether... or not it feels like a scam for everyone. Well, I think it definitely matters. Like, if somebody did something on purpose, I think that's a lot different than if somebody did something on accident. The effect is the same, and you're right about that, and the criticism should still be there, but I think it should be calibrated in a way that makes sense rather than making up fan fiction intent motives whenever I don't have the argument or the ability to really come up with a reason why that's actually true. Like, I think both of these can be true at the same time.
Biggest question, though, is
intent
what
does matter.
the hell is going on with this private equity firm? When did that
happen? It's very
happen?
confusing.
Because again, this whole idea of a board being involved is a very new and fresh thing. And it's one that goes directly against what Stephen Sharif said. Even if it is more likely than not that this is a series of incompetent financial management combined with last-ditch efforts to save a company, maybe by taking on some private equity investment, maybe by trying the Steam thing. At the end of the day, it does feel dishonest, especially when the situation appears to be materially much worse than was presented to players.
Oh, it's obviously
some of those players were payers,
Yeah.
be that for the early access release in Steam, or be that the very large quantities of money that people backed this game
$3 million.
for. And in that
That's
original
nothing.
post on the 29th,
Like, literally, like, that's like rent, basically. That's their payroll for less than 6 months.
whoever was left at Intrepid said they would host a stream.
Is it worth picking this game back up? Brother, did you just get here? No, it's not. This is really, really bad timing.
On February 13th to showcase what was next.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that's happening, not with there being no
For
staff
badly
left,
informed
even if
employees.
the game's
Sucks.
servers
It's
are
sad.
still running. But outside the game, I think we are only just starting to see a legal process that will likely take years to resolve. And sadly, the game that people...
If I look at this from the most cynical nature possible, and I assume that Steven is a bad faith actor, I would assume that Steven is putting out this message that he's fighting against the board as a effectively like a disclaimer so people don't try to sue him or they don't pursue legal means because they assume that he's acting in good faith. That's what I think that anybody who doesn't agree with Steven or thinks that he's a liar, I think that's exactly what they're going to say.
desperately dreamed of is just looking further and further away.
That's a component?
than
Yeah, I
ever.
think so.
Who knows where this is going to go?
I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think that anybody's going to get their money back. I don't think there's going to be any consequences for this. I don't think anything is going to happen from this at all. I think it's going to just be another disappointing Kickstarter that didn't happen. And it's really just that simple. It's not going to be a big court case or anything.
However, I guess I will say this. Ashes of Creation as an IP has certainly got image...
Dead. 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 Gone. Vanished. Reduced to atoms.
Problems right now. However, that as an
That's how it
asset
is.
does actually exist. And it is now owned by this private equity firm. Maybe there is some future where someone acquires that asset.
Nope.
And maybe And
Nope.
maybe from that, something could happen.
Absolutely
But I
not.
would not expect some hightail style
0% chance.
turnaround here. This does appear to be substantially more of a shit show. Let me know
Reduced
what
to
you think.
ashes.
My emails are open. We'll follow the story as it develops. And if all this drama has you riled up for some more, go watch this video next. It's about Highguard, but not just the drama. It's about what's actually going on with the game. And how
Highguard.
it at least seems that them not being a AAA team owned by a publisher, well, maybe playing in their favor. Because to be fair to them, they're actually moving fast.
That's true. I hate to say it, but Bellior is right. Yes. And there it is. How's Highguard doing? Let's take a look. And I'll link you guys the video. It's a Bellior video. Make sure to give it a like. And Steam gave me a full refund for it. Yeah, you should take a look. Yeah, his videos are good. They definitely are.